Let's start with dimensioning 1, dim 1. I'm going to move the sheet to the top for problems 1 and 2. And what we would like to do is work the two problems and start applying the rules that we learned in the textbook and also on the sheet dimensioning 15, which had a compilation of all the rules for dimensioning. Now, as I look at this object, I have a top view and a front view. I can see the cut that is in the front view here. I also see it in the top view. However, I can see it more clearly in the front view, so my dimensions for width will be included in the front view. Also, if you take a look at it, you can see that these corners here form L's, like the letter L. Up here, they form the letter T. And the rule is dimension to the L's and not to the T's. And when you look at this problem, it's very easy to understand why that is, because I can definitely see it more clearly in this front view. When I'm looking at the instructions, include overall dimensions for the width, height, and depth. Omit my actual measurements. So on this first sheet, we're just simply going to worry about correct placement of our linear dimensions. Now, I've already decided I'm going to go with my width in the front view. So I can look at it and see 1, 2, 3 measurements. I can go 1, 2, 1, 2, or 1, 2. It doesn't matter because there are no finished surfaces to dictate which side I start from. So I'm going to start from the left and I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3 grids. And I'm going to use this grid system to guide me in my placement. This will be my dimension line. Then on the side over here, I will draw my extension line. Notice I have a gap from the object to the end of the extension line, and it extends beyond my dimension line 1 grid. I'll do the same thing here, and I'll go from here up. I'll put my dimension line in, and notice my arrows go the length of 1 grid, and they're very slender and very narrow. Now I have my width. I'm going to also put my height in this front view. For my height, I will once again move out 1, 2, 3. I'll put a light construction line there so I know where I am. I'll start from the bottom, although I don't have to. There's my first extension line. Second extension line. And notice I have 1, 2, 3 heights. So I'm going to have 2 measurements. I'm going to omit 1. Here is my height for these 2 parts of the object. Now I have my width, I have my height, and when I look back at the top view, I have only 1 depth. So I'll go over here, 1, 2, 3, and my 1 depth then becomes my overall depth. In the front view, I need to put an overall height. I can put it on this side, or I can put it on this side over here. And I'm going to choose to put it over here. I'll simply go, I started out 1, 2, 3. Now for my next dimension, I'll go 1, 2, and put in my light construction line, and my height will go like this. Need to make that one grid longer. Here's my dimension line for my overall height. Overall width, I can put it on the top view or on the front view. If I can, I will put my overall width between my views. Although if I have to put it above it or below it, that's acceptable, but this is the preferred location. And I will put mine here. And here's my overall width. And this first problem is now dimensioned. Notice that extension lines can cross, as here and like here. However, I never want to cross a dimension line with a dimension or an extension line, but it's okay for the extension lines to cross one another. Let's go to problem 2 and see what we can do. Once again, my top view only has one depth to it. My front view, I have 1, 2, 3 heights, and I have 1, 2, 3 widths. So for my top view up here, since I have a little more room over here, I'm going to put my depth on this side, and we'll have that taken care of. Notice how slender my arrows are. Now, I either can start at the bottom and go up or the top and go down. I'm going to choose to go from the bottom up. 1, 2, 3. And I put a light line there so I know how far to go. That's the beginning of my dimension. And notice I am crossing over the visible line, but I'm still stopping short by one grid of the visible line here. I don't want it to look like this line continues on. I do want that gap. And then I'll put this measurement here, and I'll omit the third measurement. And notice now we're leaving out our actual numbers here, our measurements. We're putting our dimensions in. We're only worried about where we're locating things. Now, if I look at the top view, I can see the hidden line representing this cut. If I were to dimension this in the top view, I notice that I'm dimensioning to a hidden line. We never want to do that unless there's absolutely no other way to dimension the object. Also, these make T's. These make L's. So I definitely want to dimension my cuts in this view here. I can start from this side or this side, and just to be a little bit different, for whatever reason, let's start from the right side. And I'll go to here, to here, and I'll go there. Draw my dimension line. Now the only thing I need to complete this will be my overall width and my overall height, as I already have one depth that also becomes my overall depth. So I'll move out 1, 2 more grids, using those for a guide. Here's my overall height. 1, 2. And here's my overall width. And with that, problem 2 is complete. Once again, I could have taken the overall width and placed it up here on the top view. Either one would be correct. Let's work one more on plate DIM1. Let's go to problem 3. Here I have a cut, and I can see the foreshortened surface in the front view. I can see it as an edge view in the top view. And referring back to dimensioning sheet 15, if I look at this, the front view is rather simple. I've got one height here. As far as the object goes, with this one cut here, I can give a coordinate and a coordinate. I could give a coordinate, and then I could give an angle or coordinate and angle here. However, I'm going to choose to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to size the cut. I'm going to tell him how far to go before he makes it. So there, with the two coordinates, I can go from corner to corner, and I don't even need the angle here. Now, for my height, I only have one height. I'm going to put it on this side here, and that also becomes my overall height. Now, overall height, I have sized the part. I need to give an overall depth and an overall width. And to be different, once again, to show you that they all don't have to be in the same view, I'll put the overall width here, although it could be in the top view. And I'm going to put my overall height, my overall depth in the top view. Now on this plate, I'll slide back to the very top, you notice that we really concentrated on sizing, telling how big or how far over things are on the object. And I've also added my overall lengths. And all of those, of course, are linear dimensions.